Hi, I'm Jim,
And I'm Hisham, and this is,
the Quantumly Leaping Podcast.
yes, it is. Indeed, it is. And I'd like to say welcome to our audience and to thank them very much for being very engaging. Like our last episode, in a couple of hours, we just have like 8 views and a comment, and people are loving our content. And I hope that we will live up to their expectations or maybe better. I hope. And um, today's topic is a really important topic, and it's something in everybody's minds nowadays and for the past couple of years, and it's about privacy. So everyone talks about privacy, but a lot of people don't even know what a privacy is or how to define it or how to or what should I worry about? What should I post? What should I not? How is my data is going to be used if I posted it? Because a lot of people don't know what's happening. So we're just going to touch base on that, and we're going to talk about it. And I know that it touches everybody because everybody's online nowadays. Everybody's posting content. So let's just not. I just want to say that there's a lot of other episode that we're going to talk about other things that are related to privacy, like we have a planned episode about the role of social media, also in moderating content and all. We have a
Hmm.
lot, and we have
Yeah.
something about cybersecurity. But as we know, this is our first season. We try to touch up on the big topics, and then when we will actually expand in other things. So we today we're going to talk about privacy, and I want to start with something that I think it's very important. It's is redefining privacy. Now everybody's posting everything online, and they posted it for public. And when a breach happened or something like, it's like, oh, where is my privacy? You didn't. But the thing is, you posted it publicly, and it was your choice. Besides, looking back, I mean, I look back at the pictures of my parents or my grandparents and look how they were wearing when they were taking those photos, and see, like, I don't want to show this part of my hands. It like my point is, what was private 20 years ago or 30 years ago or 50 years ago is not private right now, but we still have not defined or redefined what is privacy for nowadays and what is not, because we now have an idea on how some kind of private data could be misused, and we don't want people to stop posting things or doing that, but we just have to redefine what the companies can use of this private data and what's not, and what the people can be blamed if they posted that, because you're like you're posting way too much. And what is too much? That is my point. So I know that Jim, you have an experience when you remember when we were talking about the app for the lineups, and then you realize that that this app is doing this by collecting data from all the phones, and he was like,
Yes. Yeah.
so
So,
so
uh, so it's a quick story. I promised Hisham I'll do quick stories. So we're in COVID-19 era right now, and Hisham, we've had an amazing friendship, but sometimes Hisham really, I don't know what word to use. Okay, freaks me out. Okay, so about 2 weeks ago, uh, I was telling, we're talking about something, and he says, "Oh, check out this app for lineups," because I was talking, I'm going shopping for everything. So he gave me this app. So I started using it. So then I met up with my parents a couple of times, and I showed them this app where it amounts the amount of time that it takes, and they were like, "Really? There's an app?" And my parents now are losing. My mom's using her laptop and her iPad more than she's ever had the past 8 years, but it's a whole other discussion. So then, uh, uh, just recently, I asked Hisham, "So how does it work?" And Hisham says, "Are you serious?" or something like that. dude, everybody has their phones. We have a phone tracking in your phones, and I think the words were on my mouth were not PG were R
GPS.
rated.
Yeah.
GPS tracking, and I said, oh, blank blank. And I said, oh, so that's how they're tracking. And Hisham says, well, what did you think they were tracing you? So it wasn't a special conversation I had with Hisham that night. I kind of realized about how they were doing it, but I didn't realize that's the way they're doing it. So uh, at the end of the day, we carry these things with us, and they're not just phones, they're computers, they're all sorts of things. So yes, I got freaked out. But at the end of the day, this topic, privacy, is a product, and we're going to be talking here in the next for 30 minutes or so about very powerful examples of what privacy breaches have happened. Many of them you've heard about, maybe not. But I think it's at the end of the day, we have to share the good, the bad, and the ugly. This show is about, Quantum Leaping Podcast is about talking about topics that are gonna maybe hit a nerve, and that's what about. We will have some. We're planning some more lighthearted episodes in the future. We will. I promise you that. But I think it's important to talk about this, and I actually have in front of me two articles that talk about privacy, and one is about contact tracing during COVID. It's just from yesterday's paper here from the Toronto Star, and it's interesting because I've seen many news programs and privacy in China, especially, and this is a fact, is not a big deal. I'm telling you, I can't. I'll reference the show maybe in the notes, but it was a show I saw, and they were talking to a young lady, and for them, privacy is not a big deal. Why I mention this in Canada and in North America, we are behind in this. And how I can tell you this factual, I've actually traveled into the United States for speaking opportunities, for business conferences, and and the U.S. is actually pretty far ahead of Canada in a lot of ways. And I could be here all day talking about it, but we are still behind in acknowledging and realizing this. And it's almost like you hit a nerve in Canada when you talk about privacy. And these are two long articles I have in front of me. So I think that's important that we have to catch up with this. And we're going to talk about two big situations that have happened, but they're talking about here contact tracing, privacy in Europe. They're using an app to do contact tracing, and here in Canada, they're like, no, they're releasing all these civil liberty. The unions are coming up to bat saying this, that. So there's a lot of dissension here in Canada to use that technology. And the article is right here, right here. There's an article right here.
Yeah.
So like I said, we do our homework here, ladies and gentlemen. When this show happens, and that doesn't happen, we do our homework. I'm going to keep telling people this. We do our homework. So I'll throw it back to you, Hisham. Thank you.
Yeah, and the point where you talked about is like in China, people have no privacy because it's an authoritarian regime, of course. So
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
have, being a Chinese there, you have waived your own privacy. I
Yeah.
don't want to go into politics, but that's how things work.
Okay.
But what I've liked about is like when you talked about, because we're in COVID-19 and people uh, are talking about contact tracing, because there are some people who are very irresponsible and they go out and they cause a lot of problems while other people are like us are sitting at home, you know, and giving up too much,
Yes.
giving up too much. And they were willing to say like, yeah, we can give you contact tracing. Now, this is I'm not against that again, or I don't think anyone. But the thing is, what would you deal with? How is this data is saved? Because we still didn't have. I mean, we have PIPEDA here, but we still have a lot of work to do out. It's not as strong as GDPR or like the California privacy or CCPA, but
Yeah.
we still have a lot to work on it, and we still need more transparency into that one.
Yeah.
Like in Europe, what I've liked in Germany, they have a contact tracing app, and it's used according to Trump, but
Yes.
it is not using. It does not load your data, your personal data. It works with Bluetooth and things, and it tells you that someone in your vicinity might have COVID-19 in 10 meters vicinity or something like that, without telling you who they are or something. But for you to take precautions, to social distance between people and all of this thing, to take your precautions, so they could do that without invading the privacy, because they have the infrastructure, they have GDPR, they have a lot of things. Again, we have PIPEDA and some like some provinces in Canada, like Alberta or British Columbia, they have their own privacy laws as
Yes.
well, which are very strict as well. But we still have
Yes.
not defined a lot of it. We still have to sit on one table. Everybody, people in technology, people in law, people from all walks of life, and it's like, how could you take my data? Because companies are collecting all of our data without someone who's telling them stop. You know, even if you want to collect data, even if people actually gave you the permission, these are the boundaries that you can use or sell this data, because those companies are making a lot of money from our data. And you know there should be like a trade-off, right? And just for your point about that app is like nothing. I don't want to freak people out, but have you heard about the off Facebook, the off Facebook activity? They're collecting data on you even if you're not on Facebook. Any website that you visit that have that Facebook code, you can actually switch that off from Facebook just to give them that. It's an optional thing that you can. But the thing is, every agreement, every privacy agreement they send you what they update. People do not read. And then they say, like, why are they tracing us? They sent you that. I mean, it's long, but if you care about your privacy, you should read those terms. It is what gets them out of legal problems, and what lets them track and trace every movement without them being afraid of what is going to happen to them. So people, first of all, you have to know what you do, and we have to, again, to redefine what's private and what's not. And this is not going to happen if we as people didn't push it out very hardly. Now, speaking about that, I think we should also start talking about our next topic, which is privacy in healthcare data, because you know I know that a lot of people were affected, like 15 million Canadians were affected by the Life Labs uh, data breach a couple of months ago, and it's still under investigation. I think also COVID-19 has stopped a lot of things, but it's 15 million citizen in Canada that lost that their very personal healthcare data were stolen. Like, I know that you have a personal experience with that. If you care to share about it.
Yeah, I had to go do some just general blood work, and I walk into the office. I'm like, oh my God, it's Life Labs. And then there was this big sign in the office that stated that this occurred. We're taking the necessary precautions. And I was like, oh shoot, do I really want to do this? Because they were doing the work. So I got a little antsy. And the lady beside me says, what? Why are you getting so antsy? And I said to her, did you read the sign? And she read the sign. She's like, oh, really? I'm like, yeah, it was in the news. So, I ended up doing the work, but yeah, Life Labs is a very huge, and here in Toronto, Life Labs, they are massive here in Toronto. They do a lot of work. That was a big, big deal that happened. So, again, all I can say is that, again, this is not an easy topic to talk about, but I'm glad that we are sharing this because maybe you missed it. And one thing I just want to bring to light about what Hisham just made a point right now about reading. I urge people, ladies and gentlemen, to read your contracts. To do the extra work. I gave an example in our last show about a contract that I was signing. Just didn't seem like a big deal, but I was reading the contract, and the guy on the other side was actually little not happy that I was reading it, and I ended up not going through with this particular program, and he was uncomfortable because I was reading every line. So I think we have to go the extra road, and I have to admit, I'll be authentic with you that maybe 15 years ago I wasn't that, you know, I didn't
Finicky.
read finicky. But I'm older, as you may see, I'm a little older and wiser, and I think that with age comes a little wisdom. And I was part of another opportunity was brought to my attention here about a month ago. I signed an NDA regarding it, so I couldn't tell anybody about it. It actually has come to fruition. I just missed the webinar here 2 weeks ago, and the reason I didn't partake in it is because there's a lot of things that I'm little still hesitant about it, and maybe it's another show. We'll talk. Oh, actually, we talked about AI, but I didn't jump on it, and I was one of very few people to listen to this product and pitch. So I think that's important that we take our privacy very seriously, and that we read the documentation. With that
Yeah.
said, um, let's move forward.
Yeah, and I I would bring something that is because you talked about reading the those agreements and being this, and I have a personal thing. It's a funny story that we were in a like a data science kind of an event, and actually the one who's leading it was a friend of mine, and it was a big event. We were like at least 150 people in the room. It was a big room, and I was in the first row, like I like to have it. So I was in the first row, and the presenter, my friend, he says like he was talking about what kind of data that we push and how data science is also participating in collecting every bits and pieces of our lives and analyzing us and profiling us. And it's like, has anybody read the Facebook uh, service agreement or the things? And I raised my hand. And he was like, because I was just right in front of him, and he was looking at me and looking at back. And I'm looking at him, like, is he like, do you realize that you're the only hand in this room that was raised? I was like, I was still raising my hand. I was like, sorry, I did. I don't
I
understand.
remember you telling me this story. I remember you telling me this story.
Yeah, and I was shocked. And because we're still talking about also healthcare. Now, the thing is about healthcare is not just the records. I would just want to tell people it's not just about the records of your healthcare. A lot of people right now searching when they have any symptoms, search on Google for it. Or they go on Facebook and they say, you know what? I'm sick or something, just to post it, or sometimes to ask people like, I'm having this cough. Does anybody have something or something like that? And that is recorded. That is being collected on you.
Can I
They
sh-
know
can I
what.
share my can I share my funny story since we're on the topic?
Yes, of course, of course.
So Hisham and I have done many big corporate events here, providing media. We did an event called the Six Summit in 2019. It was an amazing event. Near the end of the event, there was a delegation on the stage, six of them from the healthcare industry. I was in the back row, and a comment was made. We're saying, in the future, in the near distant future, he said, you'll order a pizza, you'll give your pizza, and they're going to deny you your pizza order because of your high cholesterol level. Most of the people in the room kind of got a little bit of a laugh. I was like, and that will happen. And the person behind the group in front of me goes, "What do you mean?" I go, "That's the reality. That's going to happen. Well, you'll be able to order pizza because you have a high cholesterol level." Now, I know it's a joke, but that probably could happen because they're going to have access to your records, right? And you have a high blood count. So it was meant as a joke, as a medical joke, but I didn't take it as a joke. I took it
It,
as reality. So I just want to throw it out that that may happen in the near distant future.
actually, it does happen right now. I was personally involved in projects of smart cities and smart houses. Now there are smart toilets, who like when you go and urinate, they could actually analyze your urine and say
Yeah.
if you have a high sugar in your blood. So if you have diabetes or something, and they send the report to your doctor automatically. And this is happening right now. It's not science
Wow.
fiction. It is now happening.
Wow.
And
There
when
you
you
go.
talking about China and the tracing of COVID-19 now through drones and cameras, they actually trace people with their temperature, body
Yes.
temperature through the thermal cameras. Now
Yes.
imagine how could that be if it's used on a wide level. I mean, like people are giving, a lot of people say we're fine with that if this is going to solve the corona, but what's going to happen after the corona? Should we continue? Because if that went on, people are going to know what you're feeling. Imagine yourself going to a business interview, or let's not say a business interview. Let's say that you're in your evaluation and you don't like your manager, and they have those cameras and all. They could see your heartbeat, your temperature, your level of anxiety, and they might tell, those machines might tell that you don't like your boss, and
Yeah.
that might create gazillions. I cannot imagine how number of biases that would might create. And the problem is, my problem is not if they could tell that you hate your manager, if you really does, but a lot of people have that, what we call it, like, the exams anxieties, or exam anxiety syndrome, or something like
Yeah.
that. It's like
Yeah.
sometimes you know everything and you can answer everything in the exam, but because of the atmosphere of the exam,
Yes.
you just don't. And this happens in interviews, in evaluations. So you might not hate your manager or anything like that. It's just like the normal anxiety that comes with you being evaluated.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
lot of people have that.
Yeah, I can add something to that as well, and I think that again, this is reality. I do a lot of I've interviewed people for business opportunities. I've been interviewed for jobs, and whether we like it or not, we exert um, energy and all that, and also body language too. I've taken multiple body language seminars, so I can speak about it. And I'm actually reading a book here called Split Second Marketing. Believe it or not, our face on a nanosecond makes all sorts of
Reactions.
adjustments and all that reactions. Whether the police have known this for years. When they're interviewing people, the reason they interview people and they see their face. People say when they look up, you're lying and all this, whatever. But now it's taken to the next level where they use this technology, as Hisham's talking about, and this is where the line is getting blurred. The silver lining now is getting exposed. And that's why it's important to talk about this because, yes, you're right. In China, things are different. The reason I'm using an example is just to say that we can dwell ourselves in the pit, in the muck, but at the end of the day, COVID-19 is a serious thing. Thousands of people have died. I'm red here for the many people who've passed away and for our support, for our frontline workers. So, post COVID, things gonna have to change, ladies and gentlemen. And whether we don't like this technology, we feel it infringes on our rights, we have to make those hard decisions. So, I'll throw it back to you, Hisham.
Yeah, and since you're talking about post COVID-19, and we'll have a full episode
Yeah.
about that. But I want to
Yes.
touch about something that relates to privacy, because post COVID-19, we're gonna go back to traveling. I mean, like
Yes.
not immediately, but we're gonna go back to traveling.
Yeah.
And even before COVID-19, and before talking about all of this, we had an issue for like a couple of years, that in border security in many countries, I don't want to put names to, just because many countries, they have the right now to ask you as a traveler
Yes.
to open your phone, to unlock your phone. They could look into your Facebook, into your WhatsApp messages, into your whatever.
Yes.
I mean, like in most of those countries, this thing is totally unconstitutional. Not to mention that it poses a lot of threats on privacy or something.
Yeah.
It's unconstitutional. So when
Yeah.
I look at that and say, like, okay, so that was even before COVID-19, before people are now
Yeah.
willing to
Yeah.
submit their data. What is going to happen after COVID-19? I mean, like, I mean,
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean, like,
I can add something to this as well. There's a TV show here which highlights the Canadian board security in Vancouver and all over North America. And I actually watched the show for many reasons. But one of the major reasons is I actually seen this with my own eyes, where someone's coming in and they ask the person to unlock their phone to go through messages to see what connections they have with the person who they're going to meet. And sometimes there's nefarious reasons and all that. It is happening, Canada and the US, that they are asking people to do this. So Hisham is mentioning it, but again, I've seen this with my own eyes. It's not fabricated. This is happening, and I think post COVID, things are going to happen. There's many things here in Toronto where work permits now to go watch to go work in movie films to do a special project. They're discussing perhaps you will need some sort of certificate that you've been tested. They're talking about it here in this article. They talk about it. Even in the other article here up there. It's called since we're talking about passports. It's called immunity. They're asking immunity passports to keep
Yes.
society
Yeah.
idea ripe for abuse. This is the headline in the Toronto Star.
Yeah.
Now,
And by the way, just to let people that a lot of health officials and all of they don't like the idea, even the health officials. But
they don't.
so it's a
So I've
it's a
highlighted.
huge debate now.
Yeah, there is a huge debate. It's a huge article. I've highlighted it. But the reason I wanted to show you this is just the fact that we are doing. I want to show you that we are. This is legitimate. Newspaper, whether people like it or not, doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, this is being discussed right now. I do a lot of my work in the movie industry. I do a lot of special projects. Maybe they will not allow me unless I go get tested. Hypothetically, maybe in 3-4 months, I'll have to go get a test to prove that even though I'm going to give my word, I didn't have it. I might have to to pay for a test. It may be reality for me to go actually do work now to do a test. Potentially, I'm just saying. It's where
Yeah.
we're
And
early May here.
and just to let people know that doing a test is not just about doing the test, because if you do the test, you're signing up for contact tracing. So that is the biggest concern. Is that
Yes.
okay? Some people are like, yeah, go do a test. What's the problem? It's not going to be, because that passport is not just about you getting tested and you get that, because you might submit to a
Yeah.
contact tracing and you give them the permission to trace you.
Yeah.
Why from that is the biggest concern. And
Yes.
I want to also give another example, not just about that, but about like so. Sometimes you even do not submit when we're talking about border security. There's a story of this student. He's like a Palestinian Lebanese student, like it was last year, who was a like he's a very brilliant student and who got a scholarship to Harvard University, or I think it was Harvard, and he's got all his paper, nothing, everything legal and all of this thing. He reaches the United States, and they ask him for his phone and to unlock it. And he said, like, I have nothing to hide, so I unlocked it. Which is, we have to talk about the word "I have nothing to hide." Why I don't like it as well, because a lot of people say I have nothing to hide, but they don't know that it's not about what you have to hide or not. It's giving your privacy could be harmful for you. So he gave it to them, and then they came back after an hour or so, and they say, like, you're not allowed into the United States. Why? Then they discovered that one of his friends on Facebook posted something bad about Trump or something like that, which doesn't have to be a problem. Freedom of speech does not limit to inside the United States. Anyone can say, unless they post something that is harmful or something like related to crime or terrorism or something. Besides, it's his friend, not him. And he posted that while this guy was in air. Like, if he didn't even have the time to block that friend or to comment. He didn't even comment or liked it or anything like that. And it's like, so he willingly gave it to them because he thought, I have nothing to hide. But he was denied access to that country. And it's like, I have no idea. I mean, like, I stood speechless when I've heard that. I mean, like, so I'm giving my phone, and because some of my friends, or even my cousins, I have cousins in the United States, and they talk about politics all the time, and I don't see it even. I don't notice. I don't even see everything on my Facebook. I have like 1,200 contacts on Facebook. I cannot follow them all. But if they found out by mistake that someone, I will be denied, and just not to the United States, in any country, does that make any sense? Like.
Yeah, and I like to add, I've traveled through airports again from 2008 to about 2017. And a quick story that I'll share. It's a true story. I haven't shared it that much, but it did happen. I was coming back, and there was a gentleman behind me who was dark skinned, probably Egyptian maybe, and he joked to me in line saying, "Oh, you're gonna have an easy time getting through. Don't worry about me. They're gonna look at me. They're gonna pull me aside. They got all these questions." I go, "May I ask why?" Well, look at me. I said, "Excuse me." He says to me, "Look at me. I have dark skin. I think I will get." So I went up. He asked me a few questions, stamped, and I walked slowly. I walked very slowly. I did a 360. No word of a lie. Maybe 2 minutes later, he was already going to the room to do further investigation. He turned around and he winked at me as if I told you. And
Yeah.
he had gone to Dominican with me, golfing with some friends. He just got married, golfing. No, no, no reason
Yeah.
whatsoever, and he got pulled. Now, I didn't think anything of it till years later, and people were talking about this, and it happens, and it's in I've had other instances. Another quick story. My brother's friend, he's Chilean, 5'6", normal build. Many times he was with my brother, and he being an HMV, which is no longer around, walking around, um, doing stuff, and he got accosted by the security, asking him questions. What are you doing here? Like him specifically, not my brother, him. And he was like, what's the situation? Oh, we identified you potentially, through the cameras of doing some illicit activity. He had walked in, was looking at some DVDs with my brother. He had done nothing. This would happen to him all the time, and he was, you know, a legitimate citizen. Was born in Canada. We had a hip hop magazine, and it happened to him all the time. It was weird. He would tell me this. So this has been happening not just because of COVID or pre-COVID, or this is happening to people all the time, ladies and gentlemen, and it is real. And this is people in my community. I have other stories I can share that a friend of mine
Yeah.
that I know really well. He's dark skinned, and he got pulled over. He used to keep track. How many times he get pulled over a year? He says 60 times a year he was getting pulled over. I said I didn't believe him. He goes, "Watch, look at my list." He was writing down all the times he get pulled over by cops. He had no infractions, no driver. Everything was in order.
Hmm.
Going to a wedding, going with his wife and kids sometimes in the back seat. He'd get pulled
Yeah.
over, all because he was dark skinned, were driving a nice car. And
Yeah.
and the cops who would not give him their information, I'm telling you, I'm not making this up. He got pulled over lots of
Yeah.
times
I
for
know.
no reason.
And the thing is, once you get pulled out many times, because they keep that data,
Yeah, I
even if you don't
know.
do
I
anything,
know.
it's they ask you very invasive questions sometimes, specifically
Yes.
on
Yes.
borders and inper, and they
Yeah.
keep that data. So you pulled up one, two, three times, then you become in their system while doing nothing, just
I
because,
know.
and
You didn't do anything. I
exactly,
know.
and collecting this private data on them from an airport to another will make it worse. And
I'll
so
share. I'll share a quick 30-second story. 5 years ago, again, I swear to God, lightning struck me down. I was coming back from a club. I was out drinking. I was walking down the street. It's called Spadina Street. I saw to my right a bunch of police officers on bikes. They came around the corner. It was me and another civilian just walking down the street going south. They stopped us, 8 cops, pull out your ID, let's see your hands. And I'm like, we looked at each other, me and the civilian, what, what's going on? I told them I was just at Crocodile Rock and I'm walking home. That's it. I was shaking, ladies and gentlemen. I was shaking. Let me see your ID. I go, and I gave my ID. Let me see your hands. Like, they're looking, I don't know why. And I'm like, what's this all about? What, like, why are you stopping? Like, and the other guy, he was nervous. He was probably older than me. And then they said, okay, here you go. You may go. And they left. And the guy's like, what the heck was that all about? I go, that was weird. I'm a white guy. Like something happened, and they just the first two people they thought was me and him. It was the scariest thing. And I was so petrified. I came back to my apartment. I couldn't sleep the whole night. The next day, I went to work, and everybody was like, Jim, you're like white. I was so
Pale.
it mentally scared the
Yeah.
bejesus out of me. And I don't usually share these stories, but I told Hisham before this that I'll be authentic. Stuff has happened to me, and I'm a ordinary white guy. Sorry, like so. This is. I know. Look, because I went to Life Labs, to do blood work, and they got their life stolen. Do I feel comfortable submitting my credit card? I paid for blood work. It makes you wonder. So this is not hokey pokey stuff. This is reality stuff, people. So thanks for letting me share, Hisham. Go ahead,
Yeah,
back to you. Sorry
sure,
for that.
sure. And speaking about that, I want to move also to another topic, which was on everybody's mind, uh, the Facebook breach, the big breach, and Cambridge Analytica, which
Oh my
was like a
goodness.
big, big thing. Like
Oh my
they
goodness.
used their data, your data, against you.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing is that Cambridge Analytica, what people don't know is that they didn't have that contract with Facebook because they were not registered as a research
Yeah.
company. So this doctor in Cambridge University who have that type of agreement to get this data, and he got the data, he sold it to Cambridge Analytica, whether it was for money or not. Sometimes he said I didn't sell it, just give it. It's not it was not his place to give this kind of data, and the contract with Facebook is that this data is for research only, and you have to destroy it
Right.
after you're done with it. I mean, like, this is Cambridge Analytica. God knows how many Cambridge Analyticas all over the world. I mean, they were stupid enough to get caught, but we don't know how many other companies around the world who are stealing these kind of data. And, I mean, like, of course, what Facebook is saying that they have put a lot of restrictions now on how their data is going to
Yeah.
come up. But it happened. What happened happened. And now
Yes.
a lot of us, I was one of the people who received that message saying that my data was breached, and my data was scraped. Actually, they didn't say, they used the word breach because it's illegal. It has a legal precautions to it. Oh, sorry, it has a legal responsibility for it. But they sent me like, your data was scraped, and I was like, I knew somehow that my data was scraped, but it was like, yeah, what do you want me to do? I mean, there's nothing you can do against them, even for that, because we're also still behind in legislations on what should happen if things like this happen, even with GDPR. Now, what I've heard is the good news is, like, recently, is that Facebook is going to pay a lot for in the European Union for those stolen data, and it took that long. That thing happened in 2014. I mean, I'm not just going to tell
Yeah.
people it's not today, it's not yesterday, it's not last year, and
Yeah.
it took that long, and there was a lot, and because there's also some gaps in GDPR on defining things. So if in Europe, which has this very strict kind of like a legislation, and we don't have that, not yet, who's going to protect us?
Yeah.
Like, you see, people are posting everything on Facebook nowadays, right? Remember when we talked
Yeah.
about that,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
crap that people are posting?
Yeah, and I can talk about. I mean, I've been on Facebook since 2008, and I remember the Cambridge Analytica very well, and I think that this has to, again, it's been very slow. The privacy. I mean, I was involved in the spam legislation that passed here about 5 years ago for email marketing here in Canada, the Castle. I work with a company who's been around for almost 10 years. We held online webinars with lawyers explaining Castle. Well, let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this legislation passed and things got worse. Okay, worse. A few fines were made. You know how many people ran the Castle office in Ottawa? Two. Two people. Okay, two people. Now, do you think two people is going to take care of everything? No, it got worse, and still it's bad. Even when GDPR passed, was getting emails from companies I didn't even know I was on the email list. I was like, who is this company? I never got an email from them, and I was getting notifications from GDPR. So things have to work faster. And I mean, I have a mailing list, and I have to put implicit or explicit consent every time I put someone in there, and I understand that. But this privacy, things have to work a little faster. Facebook is paying 6 years later for infractions. You know, this doesn't sound right to me. So I think we have to step. The political climate here, especially in Canada, is a little messed up. They spend more time mudslinging about previous 15 years ago. Trudeau had the blackface. I mean, it was the recent political climate was ridiculous with things that were happening, and this was done by everybody. Just recently, something was brought up regarding Joe Biden, something that happened 27 years ago, and Joe Biden went on TV and said this and this. It never happened. Another woman is getting death threats and all that. Like it was in the news today, and this is nothing new. Nobody quivered. This is going to happen again probably. So this privacy thing, ladies and gentlemen, something has to give. And I don't know what it is, but our politicians and our bigger entities are not doing enough. Especially Facebook, people are posting all sorts of stuff. I have some friends that are posting questionable things that I see it. And okay, I may unfriend them, doesn't mean I'm going to know everybody, what everybody else is posting. So, especially Facebook of last 3-4 years, oh my goodness, I only have less than 1,000 people on my Facebook, ladies and gentlemen. And it's people posting questionable things on there, which sometimes I'm a little bothered by. So those are my quick stories. I'll throw it back to you, Hisham.
Yeah, and we will have an episode about the responsibility of social media platforms in moderating this kind of content. But I just want to tell people as well, is that it's not just what you post on Facebook, because we just talked about this feature of Facebook activity, and people urging it to read what they're getting themselves through and deactivate these kinds, because Facebook now does collect things that you do or you browse outside of Facebook. So this is all in their data. And okay, if you're fine with that, okay, but at least you should know that this data is there, because we don't want another Cambridge Analytica and come and take our data, not just from Facebook, but everything else we have done that was collected by Facebook. And I'm just not talking about Facebook, is because but we also post on Twitter. Millennials prefer things like what do you call it, Instagram or anything like that. And they're all, I mean, Instagram is also Facebook. It's owned by Facebook. WhatsApp is owned by Facebook. So they are different products, but the same company. Twitter, there's a lot of crap going on Twitter. I mean, so in some cases, the controversial things do not compare when you compare Twitter to Facebook. There's a lot of things on Twitter, and people post everything. And you know, Twitter have more leeway in the content, like specifically, for example, photos of nudity or anything like that. You can post that if you said that your profile is for sensitive data and you have to be 18 to got it. I mean, like Facebook moderates a lot of that, so you don't have nudity or anything that's related to whatever, like drinking or smoking or anything like that, or smoking weed or something. But Twitter is more open-minded for that, and it's not that I'm against any of that. It's just like we have to moderate what we put as well. We have responsibility. They have responsibility. Yes, they should. But we also have responsibility, because this is our data at the end of the day. I mean, let's say that you put a photo that is totally inappropriate of yourself. They removed it after 1 minute or 2 minutes. That 1 minute is enough for a lot of people to see it, save it, share it, or a lot of other sites like archiving sites to save it there forever. So it is not just about, it's a responsibility of everybody. And by that, I'd like to come up to our end, because I think we've overwhelmed our audience with a lot today. It's a very heavy topic, I know, but
yes, it is.
It's important to talk about. I would stress too much on the importance, on our responsibility, that is to be aware of what is going on, read, read those agreements before we sign them. Read more about, subscribe to news sites that talk about privacy and cases like that. Like, I was shocked when you told me that there's this woman in the Life Labs who didn't read and he didn't hear about the news. It's shocking to me. So I will stress on that, and Jim, I'll give you the last word in that topic.
At the end of the day, I concur with everything you said. You have to educate yourself. You have to, you have the ability to do so. So I encourage, uh, ask questions, read documentation, um, take the extra minute to do so. I think it's worthwhile for you, and that's why we talked about some of these articles here. During COVID, we're here, we're not doing much at home, so take the extra time to read. So, and again, this is a very heavy topic, but I think that we shared again some yes some ugly things, but we also want to give that the good part is that you don't have to be a lawyer, ladies and gentlemen. You just have able to read through some words and go from there. So thanks again. So I'm Jim,
And I'm Hisham. And
and we
again,
thank you for listening to Quantumly Leaping podcast.
yes, and we hope to see you in our next episode. Stay tuned. We have a lot of other interesting topics. So stay tuned.
Thank
Bye.
you. Stay tuned. Bye bye. Bye.